in politics, you are full time, then you are not economically, at least for the middle class and lower middle class people like us, we don't have a sustained source of income, and so we don't. For one of those reasons, we don't get into politics, etc. Because it requires full-time dedication, work. You are available for your people, and so your businesses or your work would be neglected. But to your question, then after let's say finishing with the UPSC, I went abroad. I worked in Singapore for some time with a shipping company. Then I came back and I worked with one of the international banks based in London, and I worked for the innovation hub of theirs in India. And once these two stints were over, I had enough to start, my own business.
And can you also elaborate a bit about your businesses? Also,
Okay.
like what businesses are you in? What drove you to venture into those businesses, and how are you balancing between?
That's a good question. Actually, the motivation of choosing the business as well. So let's say again 2014 I said, मुझे कुछ पैसा जमा करना पड़ेगा, कुछ पूंजी जमा करनी पड़ेगी, फिर उसमें निवेश करेंगे बिजनेस में. और बिजनेस जो होगा वो ऐसा बिजनेस होगा जो सेल्फ सस्टेनेबल होगा, जो अपने आप से चलते रहेगा. और मेरी जो जरूरतें हैं, आई वाज वेरी क्लियर कि मुझे कितना चाहिए, उतना मुझे मिलता रहे, and I can then dedicate myself after let's say 7-8 years towards public service. So once I had the funds ready, I started off a food business, and my idea of the food business was to cater to people where the price of the food is not a factor that they would think when they engage with us. So we are into let's say affordable food segment. Very healthy, affordable food is what we provide, and we serve at least 300-400 people within Mumbai as of today. So this is basically giving staple food to colleges, schools, hospitals, and corporate offices. So we have a centralized kitchen. We make all our food, and all our food is again sourced. Again, there's a lot of thought in that as well. Sourced from people who come from not so privileged backgrounds and are starting off a business. So there is a back end linkage to the business as well, where we see to that women background. Let's say we can get something from them, from homemaker making something that can be include them into our business. And then in the forward linkage, we see to it that your customers are the people who are looking for a staple food which is healthy, etc., at an affordable price. So that's the food business. So that was a business that I knew, because coming back from candies, I knew how that whole business setup was. So that is one. And then we had managers and all fixed into these businesses, so that the businesses can be run by these managers and SOPs. And again, these managers would have a sense of ownership in the business versus a boss sitting on top of them. So that is now almost auto played to an extent. And then moving on, I'm also into corporate office leasing. So that is something where you pick up offices, then you build these offices, and then you hand it over to, it's a build, operate, transfer kind of model with corporates. So this is a model as well that I've been with co-working initially. So I get an understanding of how this works. And so that is also something that we do. And these are two that I'm working on. And now there's a third thing that I'm working on, which is a technology business. But yeah. So that is
actually, I remember having a conversation with you a couple of weeks back as to like मैं पूरा time तो Congress party को दे दूंगा, but how will I sustain myself? And then you shared about your businesses, and I just wanted our viewers also to understand about how to venture into politics and find a balance between work, family, and politics. So even yeah.
Then I will, if that is the intention of the question, I'll give you the operative part. The operative part being that how do you balance it? And so I used to do 20% of time in politics and 80% towards my business initially in the first 4 to 5 years. And the 20% was basically connecting with like-minded people and making a network of sorts of people, like a tribe bana liya tha maine, ki ye tribe hai mera. who are doing my kind of politics, which we'll come to a little
mm,
later. And now it is the other way around, where 20% of the time now I'm stable. The economic restriction is not there, and so I'm available. And I felt the need also became very quick in 2019. I'll give you an incident
mm,
why I wanted to jump into politics very quickly, because I felt, there is a need of people to now not sit on the टेंटर hooks and wait कि कब अभी करेंगे 2024 तक हम
mm,
कुछ करेंगे नहीं तो उससे पहले करना था. And then now the equation has changed, wherein I give 80% of my time to politics and
mm,
public service and
mm,
do a lot of
mm.
active groundwork, and 20% of the time is towards the business.
Yeah, yeah. But for you, like since the type of businesses you run, catering business and business of leasing office spaces, co-working spaces, this sort of businesses have a very kind of limited interaction with not limited interaction, but politics has a kind of very minimal intervention in with these sort of businesses. But the kind of venture that I am pursuing, which is in rural development and social impact, that has a lot of mingling with politics. Uh,
Right.
that closely works with the legislative, that closely works with the bureaucracy as well. Uh, so that is why sometimes it becomes difficult to balance both. On one side, it is easier that I can, develop networks and venture into certain geographies. But on the other side, also in the situation that we are living in right now, if the government has a bit of an idea that this organization or this person might not be in support of the government but in support of some other side, the opposition side, then they might restrict your funding. The corporates would fund you through CSR. We have seen FCRA licenses of the NGOs being cancelled in the last couple of years. Uh,
Right.
so that all. So it's also navigating through these circumstances which are ongoing in the country.